Shavua Tov Rabotai, we're continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Terumot. We're up to Perik Yud, Mishnah Yud Aleph. Today's Mishnah should be Nishmat, Neria ben Svetlana, Aranbai, and Eliyahu ben Burcha, Israelov, Minchatam began Eden, Amen. It's like we have seen in the previous Mishnayot, the rule, when flavor of a forbidden food is absorbed into kosher food, it can prohibit the kosher food. This Mishnah is going to discuss that topic further. The Tana of yesterday's Mishnah stated that vegetables of Terumot that are not sharp do not transfer flavor when pickled with another vegetable. The implication is that if a vegetable that is not sharp is cooked with another vegetable, flavor is transferred. The Mishnah is going to present other views. Rabbi Yossi says, anything that was well cooked with teradim of terumah is forbidden to a non-kohen. And the reason is because teradim give flavor to whatever is cooked with them. And the Mefarshim explain, teradim are a type of sharp beet. So the opinion of the Tana of yesterday's Mishnah is that all types of vegetables transfer flavor when cooked, and sharp vegetables transfer flavor even when they're pickled. Rabbi Yossi, however, holds that only teradim transfer flavor and only when they are well cooked. Therefore, vegetables that were well cooked with teradim of terumah may not be eaten by a non-kohen. Similarly, the Rav says vegetables that were well cooked with teradim of kelaim of the vineyard or with any other type of forbidden teradim become forbidden. And the Mefarshim explain other vegetables, according to Rabbi Yossi, however, do not give flavor to a food that is cooked with them, even when they are well cooked. And therefore, if chulin vegetables were cooked in a pot with vegetables of terumah, a non-kohen may eat the chulin vegetables. The next Tana that we're going to quote agrees with Rabbi Yossi that vegetables do not normally transfer flavor when cooked, but he holds that there is an exception to this rule. Rabbi Shimon says, "Keruv shel shikia im kruv shel bal asur." If a chulin cabbage grown in an irrigated field, which the Mefarshim explain is a field that doesn't receive enough rain, so its plants are therefore watered, if it was cooked together with a terumah cabbage grown in a rain-watered field, which is that the field receives enough rainwater and doesn't need any additional watering, Rabbi Shimon says the chulin cabbage is prohibited for a non-kohen, mipnei shu bolea. The reason is because the chulin cabbage, which is relatively dry, since it grew in an irrigated field which is not naturally moist, since it absorbs flavor from the terumah cabbage, which is moist, since it grew in a rainwater field, it absorbs like we said, it absorbs the flavor. The Mefarshim explain, a food that lacks moisture can more easily absorb flavor from a moist food. So therefore, the chulin cabbage, which we said lacks moisture, it absorbs the flavor of the terumah cabbage, which then makes the chulin cabbage prohibited to a non-kohen. The Mishnah now presents the opinion of a Tana who is lenient in a case like the one we just discussed. Our Mishnah says Rabbi Yehuda, but the Rav, in his edition and in many other editions of the Mishnayot, the opinion is cited in the name of Rabbi Akiva, not Rabbi Yehuda. But again, our version says Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says, Kol ha-mitbashlin ze im ze mutarim. When any two foods of the same type, one which is forbidden and the other which is permitted, are cooked together, the permitted food remains permitted. And the reason for this is because forbidden flavor does not prohibit in a mixture of two foods of the same type. Ela im habasar. However, if permitted meat is cooked with forbidden meat, the permitted meat becomes forbidden, because in such a case, in such a situation, some flavor is added by the forbidden meat. And the Mefarshim explain, for example, if kosher beef was cooked with the beef of a treifa cow, and a treifa, just to point out, is an animal that has a certain life-threatening injuries, the Torah forbids eating meat of a treifa. And the Mefarshim point out that it should be noted the halacha does not follow any of these three Tanaim. Rather, the halacha follows the Tana of yesterday's Mishnah, who holds that all foods that are cooked together transfer their flavor from one to the other. And this is exactly what the Rav tells us. Now, the final Tana of the Mishnah discusses the halacha of non-kosher liver cooked with kosher food and kosher liver cooked with terumah or non-kosher food. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says, hakaved oseret, non-kosher liver, for example, the liver of a trefa that was cooked with permitted food prohibits the other food, and the reason is, since the flavor of the liver enters the permitted food, it makes it prohibited. Ve'ena ne'eseret, but kosher liver does not become forbidden if it is cooked with forbidden food. This is because the liver releases flavor, but it doesn't absorb flavor. For example, the Mefarshim explain if a kosher liver is cooked with terumah, the liver is permitted to a non-Kohen, and the reason is because liver contains a large amount of blood, which is it constantly releases when it is cooking. So this prevents the liver from absorbing flavor from other foods. So therefore, while it releases its own flavor into other foods, it doesn't absorb flavor itself. Now, if you look at the Rav and the Mefarshim, the Terumot Israel, they quote that in the actual halacha, liver may not be cooked even by itself unless it was broiled first. It speaks about this more in Shulchan Aruch, section Yoredeah, Siman 73, halacha 1. And that is in Rabotai Mishna Yud Aleph. Mishna Yud Bet now, the final Mishnah in the chapter, continues to discuss the halacha permitted food that was cooked with terumah or forbidden food. If an egg was cooked with forbidden spices, for example, if it was cooked with spices of terumah, which are prohibited to an non-Kohen, or with spices of kilayim, of the vineyard, which is prohibited to all, the halacha is that even its yolk, the yellow, and certainly the white, is forbidden, because it absorbs the flavor of the forbidden spices. Now, although the white of the egg separates the yolk and the outer surface of the egg, the Mefarshim explain the flavor of the spices reaches the yolk and it forbids it. The Rab does point out, and the Mefarshim Mishnah Rishonah, they explain that the Mishnah is discussing an egg that was cooked in its shell. The flavor of the spices penetrates the shell and then continues to spread even into the yolk, and therefore the entire egg is forbidden. And the chapter now concludes with the final halacha regarding chulin that was cooked or pickled with terumah. Mesh lakot umechvashim shel terumah, the water of well-cooked terumah vegetables and the water of pickled terumah vegetables, asurim lezarim, they are forbidden to non-kohanim because the water absorbs the flavor of the terumah. And the Mefarshim explain, this Tana does not agree with the Tanaim of the previous Mishnah who hold that vegetables do not give flavor when pickled. Rather, he holds like the Tana in Mishnah 10. Now, since that Tana in Mishnah 10 prohibits vegetables that are pickled with terumah vegetables only when the terumah vegetables are sharp, our Mishnah must also be referring to a case where the terumah vegetables were sharp. That is in Rabotai of Mishnah Yud Bet in chapter Yud, and that is in Rabotai of chapter Yud. Everyone should have a Shabbat Tov. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.